YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back after Week 10's action in the NFL here with my recap. Biggest winners, I got 3 of them. Have the takeaways for the other winners as well. We have 5 biggest losers and takeaways for the other losers as well. We're here every single Monday with this video. And after this, we get on with our Week 11 content. So hopefully you can join us for all that. All kinds of content here. So join us, like, subscribe to notifications on. Follow us on Twitter. A lot going on there. Always talking during live games. Links pinned in the comments for that, and our sponsors, Liquid IV GLD Shop. Giveaway for the GLD Shop. Links pinned in the comments. First biggest winner's got to be the Texans. They definitely made this game interesting, but they do pull it off 30-27 against the Bengals. So the Bengals were one of the hottest teams in football. One of the best teams in football. I still think they will be when it's all said and done. So for the Texans to win that game, that is huge. I think that one increases their playoff chances by quite a bit. Like, they're already at a decent shot to win 9, 10, maybe 11 games. But this is one they were not supposed to win. They were underdogs by 7, which felt like too much. But for them to pull it off in Cincinnati, well, I guess it doesn't really matter where it was at. But for them to pull it off, it's absolutely huge for their playoff chances. I kind of view them as a control your own destiny type team. And I'm still confused about the Panthers loss. Again, at the time I was saying, maybe a young team slip up, but maybe off the bye week, maybe the bye week kind of got them cold a little bit. But could a game like that pop up again? I suppose it's possible, but getting this win is, again, huge for their playoff chances. I thought they were kind of that next team out, like the 8th place team, predicting-wise, like in the AFC. But now I think they make the playoff. I think that's just a huge, huge win. And having that game over the Bengals, if the Bengals don't win their division and the Texans have a shot to win their division, seeing what the Jags did, what they did to the Jags, what the Jags did this week, and the Texans beating the Bengals, absolutely huge. So that's mainly why they're the biggest winner. But Stroud does it again. He did, he had turnovers. He did have that slip up where they had the lead and he threw that interception. It was a bad one. I know it's only his second on the year, so that, but it's pretty bad in that moment. So if they would have lost, it would have been really a big rookie mistake. But for him to bounce back, some of these rookies can't do what he does, but to be able to overcome that bounce back is just absolutely huge, and be able to have a game-winning drive again. Again, there's veterans that just can't seem to have a game-winning drive. So, and it's just kind of a good example of why wins are actually a QB stat, like going out there and finding ways to get the job done. And Stroud is, a proven winner at this point for the Texans for him to be able to go out there and win games. But kind of going back to, some people talk about make excuses for their quarterbacks, like they don't have the receivers. The receivers aren't getting open. And of course the Texans receivers are playing better than expected, but I think a lot, and I've talked about this before, I think most of it starts with CJ Stroud. And I see, especially in this game, I see a lot of moments where he is throwing guys open. They might not be open, or they're maybe open by half a step or a step, and some of these quarterbacks are too afraid to throw it, and he's throwing these guys open. He's throwing them more open and making the plays himself. So I think that is what people aren't talking about, when it comes to CJ Stroud. Everyone's talking about him quite a bit, but just so excited for him in the future. The Texans, I feel like I say that every time, but really excited. But right now, too, excited for them right now to go out and get that win. How about the run game? The run game's been disappointing this year. Dameon Pierce has been kind of disappointing. He's out in this game, and so it kind of makes him look bad. But Devin Singletary goes off. And the Bengals, I know their run defense hasn't been great this year, but they're usually pretty damn good run defense, the last few years. So that was huge. So I guess that's maybe if there is a negative in this game, which there really isn't. Huge win. You beat one of the top dogs in Cincinnati. You clutch up again. It's great for this year and for the future. But I thought things did kind of go their way for the most part. Like, you actually got the run game going. Singletary ran for 150 or so yards. CJ Stroud's playing great. Like, you should close this game out. So they almost choked it there, but for them to find a way, I know they got some help with Tyler Boyd dropping the ball there, but the Bengals got some help from that uncharacteristic interception from CJ Stroud. So, but I like that the defense stepped up when they needed to. They gave up 27 points, but they clutched up. They got some turnovers, and Sheldon Rankins was everywhere, creating that interior pressure, which threw off Joe Burrow and kind of had him a little inconsistent, some good moments, some bad moments. So, main reason here, for the Texans is a massive, massive playoff implicated win. Like, it is huge. Like, before I was like, they could definitely make the playoffs, but will they have those Panthers games pop up? Maybe I have them as just the team just on the outside. Now I'm like, I think they'll make the playoffs. They control their own destiny. And I got to start with the team that I declare the sneakiest team. Well, they haven't made the playoffs yet, so I guess I won't say. But the teams I declare the sneakiest teams of the year before the season starts just seem to be really good. I don't know. So like 3 years ago it was the Bengals. Last year was the Jags. This year was the Texans. So I got to start predicting that team to actually make the playoffs. We'll see if the Texans make it, but I like their chances at this point. Just can't have those bad games slip up like the Panthers game, and I guess it could, and it's not like the end of the world if it does. For this year, it kind of could be, but it's still a young team that's growing. How about the 49ers? How about that bounce-back win off the 3-game losing streak? There's a bye in there, but they definitely looked fresh off the bye. Having Trent Williams, not just that, not having Trent Williams and Deebo Samuel back, but just in general, they looked just way fresh. But it doesn't make any sense. They looked way better. They looked way more like themselves, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. But I guess how is that going to be when they don't have a bye week the rest of the year? I'm not worried about too much. I talked about it in my playoff predictions video, which I did early last week, where I had the Niners in the Super Bowl, where I think they needed that 3-game losing streak and then the bye right after it. I think it really can help them realize how they have to play moving forward and how things change from week to week and in the middle of the season. So I think that kind of showed in a game like this. So just a massive bounce back game. You're playing against a legit team in the Jaguars, who are one of the hottest teams in football, and you made them look bad. They made them look bad. They're plain and simple better than a team that could make a run in the playoffs, out of the AFC. So and I like that they were great on all phases. I mean, Purdy was throwing the ball. If they could have won the game passing all day, they could won the game running all day. They could have won the game with their defense. Only 3 points. The defense confused the Jags. I talked about that too. Like, Wilkes' defense hasn't been as good as Ryan's, trying to run more man coverage. But maybe this kind of gives an opportunity to, like, off the 3-game losing streak, realizing what could we do to be more like last year, having the bye week. How can we figure it out? And either they mix things up and they had the Jags thinking like their offense, Trevor Lawrence, like thinking too much. Like it kind of usually defense is a guessing game. You have to kind of like guess what the offense is what type of play they're gonna run and try to match them and outplay them at the same time. Why defense is so hard, but I thought they turned it into the Jags playing the guessing offense playing the guessing game, if that makes sense. So I liked it just on all phases, across the board. What I needed to see from the Niners, I saw it off the bye week, off loser, and some. So that was great. Looked like that juggernaut again. I'm not worried about this team at all. The only thing is the durability. With this team. So excited about them the rest of the year. And I had 3 biggest winners. There's other big winners we'll talk about. But how about the Cardinals? I know they just squeaked by. It took a game-winning drive, but I don't really look at it that way. I kind of question the calls in this game, mainly at the end. It was a bad PI call on Antonio Hamilton. I thought that was an awful call. And that set up the Falcons to take the lead. And, if it wasn't for that, the Cardinals might have been a little more comfortable, might have won this game at that point. It felt like the Cardinals had control. I mean, first it was field goals. They were trying to knock off that rust, kind of click a little bit, even though they were moving the ball. Kyler did have a bad interception at one point, which was a bad time, and it got the Falcons back in the game. So my point is things really weren't going their way. Kind of had like a period of rust, only field goals, bad time for a turnover, the call late in the game to kind of push the Falcons ahead. I thought there was more calls, but that's the one I focus on. And they still find a way to win. I think that's huge there because they were finding ways to lose before. Like, they would start off hot, other teams would adjust, they would lose the football game, and only had 1 win this year. So doing the opposite, things aren't going your way, looking good even while things kind of aren't going your way. Like, Kyler felt like Kyler Murray, like the whole way. Had the bad interception, something with McBride, something really wasn't on the same page. McBride looks legit, by the way. Looks like a receiver. I mean, the guy we saw at Colorado State looks like a legit, like, powerful receiver as a tight end out there. That's fantastic. He was starting to pick it up a little bit with Ertz out, and then having Kyler in there and knowing that there is a connection, I think it's fantastic. Was huge at the end of the game as well to get them. I was a little worried like they're going to have to attempt a deeper field goal. Prater's pretty good. He can hit the deeper field goals, but he'll randomly miss like badly too. So I was a little worried. But once they got right there for the chip shot, it was great. So I think Murray and McBride set them up. But Kyler Murray, felt like he hasn't lost a step. Like he felt like, of course he can play better, but it felt like he hasn't lost a step because of the injury. Like talking about a guy that had a bad injury and was out of football for so long, and he's scooting around like he did, and he's still throwing the balls that he did. Again, he had some questionable moments, but and again, I kind of said, I predicted 26-23. I thought the Cardinals would win, and I thought maybe there's a chance Murray could be better now than he will be in this offense later. There's a chance. I think he'll knock some of the rust off and, play a little bit better in moments. But, again, they do have that game plan factor. Like, how do you game plan for this offense now with Kyler Murray in it? There's really no tape on it. There's tape on Kyler Murray in the Kingsbury offense, with that spread offense. So it is a little different. So that does work in their favor. But at the same thing, I thought things weren't going in their favor in this game. And Kyler didn't look like he was coming off an injury. They were able to find ways to win. They're 1-0 with him, so it's fantastic. James Conner, I got to mention James Conner coming back as well. He was great, had some key runs. That fourth down run, I don't know if I mentioned that fourth down run Murray had, that scramble and run. I mean, just vintage Kyler Murray, just huge. B.J. Ojulari, who I loved in the draft, and he really showed out. I was kind of waiting for more of him, and we saw more of him today, or in this game, and he had 2 sacks. So was thrilled about that. Taking a look at there's some other big winners. I think let me get myself up there. Here I am. The Vikings probably would have been a massive winner, but they did kind of blow a comeback in this one. I still thought about putting them up there because things just really weren't going their way in the second half. Saints had kind of some lucky things that went their way. And the Vikings were moving the ball still. It just, again, couldn't get the points from the board like they did in the first half, but they almost blew one of those classic Vikings leads. But they were dominant. And how about the first half? I mean, they were dominant. It was like, who the hell are these guys? I mean, just great everywhere. But overall, this game solid on both sides. Hawkinson looking like the best tight end in football. That guy was like wearing down. He didn't practice all week because he was hurt, and he was running some nasty routes. Dobbs was nasty in the first half. They are holding the Saints to 3 points. They look great in the first half of this game. I wish they kind of finished it out, but they did. They won the game. They're a tough game plan. It's not the Kirk Cousins. I know Kirk Cousins is better than Josh Dobbs, but it's not that offense anymore. So it's tough to game plan for a Dobbs offense. What are they going to do? They don't have Justin Jefferson in there yet. Ty Chandler, he was great in this game. And he had another great touchdown run too, and it was there. The play design was there. The run was good. Brian O'Neill had a bad hold against a corner. Like, he did not need to do that. This was going to be a touchdown either way. So it was a bad mistake by Brian O'Neill. So that was another great moment for Ty Chandler. So I hope they kind of continue. And Madison's concussed. Some more injuries. They had Akers last week, Madison this week. So, but they're rolling. They're one of the hottest teams. 5-game win streak. Yeah, hottest team in football. So the Vikings are rolling. Cowboys were absolutely dominant in this game. They should be, though, against the Giants. So we're not going to go crazy about it. But CeeDee Lamb is a problem. He's a game plan problem. He's just a problem in general. He's looking like an elite receiver. Before, he was a great receiver, but now he's kind of looking like an elite receiver. Brandon Cooks was fantastic. He actually had more yards, was fantastic in this game as well. But they dominated on both sides, as they should. They wanted to pile it on for some reason. They really wanted to pile it on. They were airing the ball deep when the game was over. Browns, the Browns were almost like one of the biggest. They are a big winner, but they were almost one of the biggest winners for me just because how huge this win is. It's a huge clutch win. Like getting one on the Ravens and staying alive for contention to win the AFC North is absolutely massive. They kind of looked bad at times in this game, though. That's the only thing. The start was awful. Watson was bad at times. He's limping around. Defense was giving up explosive plays pretty easily. So there was bad moments. But for them to be able to overcome that, win this game was pretty huge. Jerome Ford was fantastic. And Watson was clutch. He hasn't been great, but he's clutch, especially when he uses his legs. So the defense clutched up and helped win this game as well. So it was a roller coaster of a ride. Like, there was really bad moments, there was big moments. I don't know how they came back and won this game when things really weren't going their way. So be able to overcome that, absolutely huge. Just a massive win. Even though there was some ugly parts, it's a massive win. And it's kind of proven now that the Raiders are better without McDaniels. I know it's a winnable game against the Jets, but it's a game you're really not supposed to win because it's a defensive game. The Jets defense is better, but Josh Jacobs, to be able to get going, he did have that fumble, which could have costed them, could have choked the game there, but it definitely could have been down. It was just very hard to tell. But, things O'Connell needs to be better with, but for him to find a way, which some other quarterbacks aren't able to find a way. I know he has some good weapons, but the defense, Robert Spillane, the defense kind of clutching up when needed to, just playing with a lot more energy, and that's 2 straight. There's really nothing about these 2 games that say like they're like a legit team or anything like that. So I still think, they could struggle, some weeks, but they're winning 2 in a row. They look like a better team. The Lions probably would be a biggest winner if it wasn't for their defense being awful in this game, but the offense looks elite. And the Chargers, but we talked about Chargers been stopping the run very, very well. I did not expect them to stop the run this week, though. I thought the Lions' run game would get the best of them, but they really got the best of them with Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. So the running back duo in full effect, passing game in full effect. St. Brown, just a problem, especially for teams like the Chargers. Too much man coverage. Offense did what they when they wanted to move the ball and score points. They did that. I like the coaching in this game on mainly with decision making, like situational stuff, offense. I don't know if I love the coaching on defense, but no hesitation to go for it on that 4th down at the end. I love that because you go for it and get it. The game's over. You're going to win. But not only that, but if you kick the field goal, you're going to give the Chargers a chance. They're going to go win with the field goal. There's teams that are just too confident in that scenario, like too confident with the field goal winning the game. And so understanding the game, the situation, I thought that was great by Campbell and the guys there. So the defense, since the Ravens game, though, it does look a little more vulnerable than it was earlier in the year. So that's the thing. Like, are you going to have to win with shootouts? So that's the only downside with the Lions here. The other winners, the Bucs, they needed this game. They dominated this game. Either they dominated more than the score showed as well, and the score might show it at the same time. Defense really stepped up after, I don't know what that was last week. So being able to mainly be the reason your team wins and get stops in crucial situations. The pass rush was, making the Titans offensive line look bad, which it is bad. But and the offense did enough. Mike Evans had a brutal touchdown drop, and I think that, and that could have helped them win more comfortably and win by more. But then he kind of made up for it. Was a monster in this game. Rachaad White had a nice touchdown catch. I think Godwin was solid. He could have done more if they needed him to. So all around, I thought it was good. It's a game they needed. They're going to put up a fight with everyone. Just can they close it out? They closed out this one. Seahawks were clutch in this game. When they needed to score, they scored. When they moved the ball, they moved the ball. I thought Geno was better because he's been pretty brutal, but at the same time, a little uncomfortable of a win. They kind of let the offense, another team, the offense and defense can't really be on the same page at the same time. It's like, sometimes it's in the same with their opponent in that game, which we'll talk about, but sometimes it's like, well, recently it's just been only the defense. And last year was like an offense team, no defense. And this year it's kind of been, the start of the year was offense and no defense. And then all of a sudden for a few weeks in a row, it was defense and no offense. In this game, it felt like the same thing. But all of a sudden they're moving the ball and they're scoring, but the defense is giving up, scores. So need them on the same page at the same time. That would be helpful. But they were very clutch at the end. Kenneth Walker was clutch in this game. We had a big game. DK at the end, obviously. So just getting a win, but a little scary. Bears, I like that it's kind of looking like an Eberflus defense recently. The defense has much improved over the last, more than a few weeks. I think going back to that Vikings game. The Vikings been great on offense, and they really shut them down. I know they lost the game, but defense is kind of taking a turn for the better at some point. And, still some questions about Eberflus being a, head coach, but we needed to see his defense get going, because he's a defensive guy, and the Colts had some really good defenses under him, even when they didn't have crazy talent. So I like that it feels like that Eberflus defense, like the main reason you hired him I like that we're seeing that, and they're able to clutch up and win the game and find ways to win there. So, they were favored to win that one, but just being able to go out and do it. Again, mainly looking at that, it looks like an Eberflus defense, and I love that. They're getting pressure. They're stopping the run for the most part. They're making plays. They're tight in coverage, just a tricky zone defense that's not easy for quarterbacks. So it looks like an Eberflus defense we've been waiting for here. So I know most of the Bears fan base wants him gone after this year, so this actually could be a negative for you if you're hoping for that, because I think they're starting to, the front office and the ownership could be like, all right, this is kind of what it looked like, and we just had to get the players in there maybe. And I don't even know if the players are fully in there yet. I think he's elevating some players. So good luck for Eberflus. If you wanted him gone, then maybe it's not a positive. Steelers run defense, again, that's kind of what I predicted, because last week was surprisingly good. Like, I did not expect that. It was surprisingly good, and it's been an inconsistent run game. And playing against the Packers, weaker run defense, so you have to get going. And it was there. It was dominant. I'm not fully in love with the Steelers in this game, though. The run game was so good, and kind of things going your way. Like, you should win this game pretty easily. You should win, and I don't know about going away from the run. Pickett wasn't great in this game. Wasn't awful, but wasn't great. Like, stick to the run game there. Defense, they were like, the Packers have been struggling to move the ball, and they were able to move the ball in this game, and guys were getting behind the secondary, the defensive back. So don't love that, and it kind of took a little bit of luck. Tipped around interception, and the Packers had a shot at the end as well. So I don't know. The Steelers should have been comfortable with this game. It shouldn't come down to like clutching up plays in the end zone. So I wasn't really in love with the Steelers win, but the run game I do like, and I guess they were clutch in a way in this game. Colts, another one where I really wasn't in love with this win, but the red zone defense was great. The defense in general, if you look at the points, was good, but the Patriots were able to move the ball. Just the red zone defense was fantastic for the Colts, so that's kind of what won them the game. But the Colts are a team. I think they're benefiting from an easier schedule. I think teams are starting to kind of figure out the Steichen offense a little bit more. It's a great offense, great hire. I just need some better players in there, but I think it'll just take playing better teams, and this team won't look like a very good team. That's kind of what it feels like right now. So. Just it's a very boring game, just not enough going for them. But the Patriots are worse, and they clutch up in the red zone, so they got the job done there. On to the biggest losers. I mean, the Jags. I know I just won, and they just one loss here out of the last several. They're on a hot streak, but this is just ugly all the way around. Like across the board, ugly. Just everybody, everything. It's just like, is this going to happen when you play other really good teams? And both teams were off the bye. They both had time to game plan, and you just got out game plan. You got out coached. You got outplayed. The players got outplayed. That's kind of what it comes down to in the playoffs, though. It's like, who has the better game plan, who goes out there and executes, and they were on the opposite end of that in a playoff type game. So it's one game, but it's not a great look for the playoffs. Like, are they going to be prepared for the playoffs? And it's just bad all there. Trevor Lawrence was bad. He looked a little off, like confused about what the Niners defense was showing him. I know players aren't really helping him a whole lot. Kirk got stripped, and there's some drops, and he is placing balls, sometimes in a great spot, and they're just really not coming down with it, or just good defense. So I know it's not, is he as bad as his stats? No, but it was still bad. You got to find a way to get the job done, because I know he's capable of doing it. So that's the tough part. It's an ugly one for the Jags. The Titans, awful away, awful offensive line, and awful tackling, which is a surprise to me. And I don't really mean and I do mean it actually, just missing tackles when you have the guy, but I actually talk about angles as well. That was poor in this game, very poor. It just guys not getting to the ball quick enough either. So I thought they were very poor on all those I listed away. They haven't won away yet. They're a totally different team there. And it's like, maybe it's just unlucky, but now enough is enough. Like they are very bad away. Like, they're going to have to win football games away, and they look like a very bad team, So not ideal. Back to looking like a work in progress. They're going to be away against the Jags this week, too. So I know the Jags were ugly, but how could you count on the Titans? Jets, I mean, losing games they could win. They look like a very bad team the last few weeks. And like going back a few weeks before that, they're playing the Chiefs tough and they're beating the Eagles. And that kind of looks like fluky things, like early season things. Like now it's like they're kind of figured out. They can't do much on offense. We got to just play Garrett Wilson tight, focus on the run game. And their defense is good, but we got to run the ball on them. So the run defense is bad. It's just like they don't have that. Like before, they were winning with their pass defense, and I think teams are figuring out a way around that. If the team is just so specifically one-dimensional, it's less than one-dimensional. It's less because it's not even the full defense. Like teams are going to figure out how to beat you, so they're just not a good football team anymore. Play calling was bad. And I guess personnel too. Like I'm factoring in, like Dalvin Cook was actually looking pretty good. Like he was looking pretty good. And he's a guy like once he gets hot, he gets hotter and hotter. Then he's like that ultimate home run hitting running back, and that's why he was a 4-time Pro Bowler. So if he's on, I think you get him going a little bit more. I think he breaks one. I think if he got going more, I know Breece Hall's solid, but I think he breaks one. But Breece Hall, he really wasn't solid in this game. He was solid as a pass catcher, and he's been solid as a pass catcher. And they've been getting him the ball like 4 or 5 times through the air a game, it feels like. And he did not have a catch for a while. Then he had one catch, and that was for a while. I think that the first one he got, he broke loose on the left side. Like, throw him the ball more. Run it more to Cook because he's a Pro Bowler for a reason. Air it to Breece Hall because he gets after it in that category. So they could have won this game with better play choices, but personnel choices, calling. And then Garrett Wilson is hurt with an elbow. He's like seriously hurt. Like you could see he's in pain with a right elbow injury. And you call a play for a guy that's not a quarterback, which is fine, but a guy that's not a quarterback who's righty to throw the ball with his banged up right elbow, like right bad arm. And he threw a little too quick, but it was like he did not plan to throw that away, and he threw it way away. So it's just stupid. And that that obviously says our quarterback sucks. We're gonna have a guy that doesn't play quarterback with a bad right elbow to throw the ball. You're pretty much announcing to the world, hey, our quarterback is really, really bad. And and he is, but I guess there was moments where he was okay in this game, but then the interception was very costly. And everyone talking about the throw at the end, it was beautiful. I don't know how the hell he got that ball off, but it doesn't even matter. So just not enough from Zach Wilson. He's had worse games, obviously, but just not enough. And the run defense, I don't know what's with that. Just making the defense look not as good as what we thought it was. For the Saints, just ugly start. I mean, just got dominated by Josh Dobbs and the Vikings in the start. And they were just looked undisciplined too. They got called for a lot of penalties, but like every time the flag was thrown at them and they made the call, I'm like, oh boy, they are getting hammered. But then they show a replay, and it's like, all right, I mean these are bad penalties for them, like obvious ones. So it's like just felt like a little undisciplined in this game. Maybe they are in general. And quarterback's the situation too, because Derek Carr just could not do anything. Didn't really want to take shots. Couldn't really do anything. 3 points. And then Jameis Winston comes in, and they're moving the ball. They're coming back, and they're scoring. But then Jameis Winston does Jameis Winston thing, and he has when they have a shot, he has bad interceptions at the end. So you can't win either way. Like Jameis actually can get you going more than Carr. He's more explosive. He will take those shots. He's not playing scared. I think Carr plays scared sometimes. But he's not going to win you the game. He's not going to close out the game because he's going to throw interceptions, So it's like you can't catch a break with either of those quarterbacks. And Carr goes down, but it turns out it's not that bad, but he was acting like it was a bad injury. So it's a little bit of a mess at quarterback as well. So, and they almost came back. There was some, Olave's touchdown, A.T. Perry, very, very impressive, but they were getting pressure on Dobbs in the second half. So, but not a good outing for the Saints. It looks like, they beat the Colts and they beat the Bears. It kind of looks like they need to play the bad teams to get going. That's kind of what it looks like right now. So it's unfortunate. The Ravens are an interesting one because when this game ended, it was like, this is kind of a classic Ravens choke. But I really wasn't taking it like too poorly for the Ravens. I was like, they're still a good team, and they are still a good team, but they're still a good team. It's like things didn't go their way at the end of that game. The Browns clutched up. Okay, they lost one. I didn't think it was a big deal, but the more I look back on this game, the more I think about this game, analyze this game, It's a really bad loss. It is a really, really bad loss because things were going your way. Like, you start this game with Kyle Hamilton, beautiful play by Kyle Hamilton, like tipped interception. That's how you start this game with a touchdown. Like, that's usually enough for a good, like, when you're the better team, when you're a good team and you start that way, that's pretty much a wrap. It's hard. It's not all the time, but it's very hard for a team to overcome that. And that kind of continues. Like, Watson's playing very bad. They got a punt right away. The Ravens are scoring. They're going up multiple scores. I mean, Odell gets a big play. The Browns defense is not looking like the Browns defense. Watson's looking bad again. They can't get anything going. Njoku's dropping the ball. Watson gets hurt again. He's limping while he's playing. He's going to the locker room early. Like, and you remember how you started this game, how it started right from the get-go. How do you not win this game? Like, how do you, if you're that good, you win this game. So it's one game, and they've been the best team in football, and they look like the best team in football even through a portion of this game still. How do you not win that game? Like, they're a good team still. They should win a playoff game or playoff games, but how do you trust them against the best of the best in the playoffs? Because I don't think Seattle, I know they dominate Seattle. I'm still very much impressed with that. I don't think they're as good as we thought. The Lions game is still extremely impressive. But how are they going to stack up against the top teams in the AFC? Like, this kind of puts in a situation where, like, hey, maybe we don't have the division. Maybe we don't have it. They still are the favorites, but for a reason. But it's a tough one. Like, things went your way. You had a big lead, and I know things didn't go your way at the end, but you got to make sure they do in a game. Like, how do you lose that game? That is a bad loss. Like, how could we trust this team? Because the playoffs is about playing the best and playing your best and having the best game plan, completing games all the way through. See the Chargers-Jags last year, game after game after game against the best to the Super Bowl and doing it again in the biggest stage. Can this team do that? Can this team do that? With a game like this, you question a little bit. Same with the Jags. You question it, like, again, when they play the best teams every week. But can the Ravens, I trust they can play very well against good teams. I trust against anybody. I trust that. But can they close out games? Like if you can't win that one, if you can't close that game out, it makes you doubt a little bit at least. So, and they let, Ford run all over them. They're letting Watson limp around and make plays. So weird by their defense. It just feels like they kind of got to be, at times it feels like they got to kind of be carried by Roquan Smith and Kyle Hamilton. I think you can beat these corners. They're good, but you can get separation on them. The pass rush, they have so many sacks this year, but it's a little misleading. I don't know if they're that good, and you worry about the depth as well. So this game makes you think a little bit. So that's a tough part there, but I still think they're a very good team. It's just a game you just cannot lose. Kind of keeps the Browns alive, or the AFC North alive, I should say. Next, I know the Giants you go into this game, they have Tommy DeVito at quarterback, the third quarterback. He's bad. Going into this game and you're playing the Cowboys, you expect them to get their ass kicked. You really do. But they're an injured team, that they're a bad team, but I kind of going back to what I said last week, the takes item last week. They're a mess. I mean, they're yelling at each other on the sideline. They're disagreeing with Daboll. It's a mess, and Daboll doesn't have this team disciplined enough, and he's always screaming at guys. It just feels like a dysfunctional team, and that's not good. It's not good going into next year, so that's rough. Avery, graphics guy messed that up. Avery, very inconsistent team right now. Well, I guess just in this game, but because they were so good before. But, throughout this game, it's like, wow, okay, Joe Burrow, that throw to Chase, I mean, that was one of the throws of the year, and it's beautiful, and they're able to move the ball this way, that way. It looks great. They got turnovers from the Texans, but then they're giving up big plays. They're giving up, plays on the ground. Like, what's with the run D? This is not the same old run D, which was one of the best in football. So what's going on there? And then, they're turning the ball over. It's like back and forth. And the Texans tried to give them a shot, but they didn't want to take it, the Bengals. So, and they let a rookie quarterback have a game-winning drive. So, feel very inconsistent. They need to stay more consistent. They got to be healthier for, they need Higgins, and then, Trey Hendrickson gets hurt, but they got to be more consistent and healthier for that Super Bowl run, which I think they could have, or a lot of people think they should be able to have. Chargers, pretenders on defense. They looked a little decent the last few weeks, and I was still I kind of had my doubts. Like, the run defense looks great, but I predicted the Lions to run on them, and they ran even more on them than I thought. So they just couldn't stop shit. So they kind of been lying to us on defense, and they play the good teams. They're going to struggle a little bit. They played the Bears and the Jets recently, so that's the tough part there. And Staley's supposed to be that defensive guy, and hasn't been a good coach. He hasn't been able to find ways to win the big games. And I guess you can question how he handled the timeout situation. He kind of just relied on the Lions not going for it on fourth. And, I don't know. I think you save those timeouts. It's kind of one of the things you say after the fact. But so he should be gone after this year. He should have been gone after last year, actually. The Patriots QB, mainly Mac Jones. I know Zappe came in, didn't do well, but can't get the job done. Crucial situations. And I know the talent around him could be better, but the offensive line gets healthier, and Mac Jones played all right in that game against the Bills. And everyone's like, see, he's okay. It was the weapon. It was the offensive line. I'm like, no, he's still struggling. They're able to move the ball, and he just can't get the job done. That's really what it is, and it's nothing surprising. It's kind of been the story this year. The Panthers' offense is bland, and it's bad in every way. The play calling, the lack of creativity, the offensive line, the quarterback. Honestly, I don't think the targets played that bad in this game. When you see the all 22 guys are they wide open at times, actually. Bryce Young had Hurst. It was a big one late in the game. They designed a play, a one read play specifically for Hurst, and it was there. And the main thing was the anticipation. Like zero, he was watching the whole time, waiting for him to That's the thing with this game. I think Bryce Young last week threw 3 interceptions. This game, he wanted guys to be. Guy like Hurst in that play was wide open, but he wanted him to be as safe as possible. So that isn't ideal. But receivers had steps on guys. You just got to let the ball rip. He doesn't have a whole lot of time, so the offensive line's doing a bad job. But you got to make you drop and make the throw. But play calling and the system just seems very bland as well. I think you need something very creative for Bryce Young to work out better. But this might have been worse than the interception game was bad, those specific throws. But you take every moment, put it together. I think this game was probably worse because he just didn't want to get the job done. That's what it was. He did not want to get the job done in this game. He didn't want to try to make the throws. He wanted to wait to the last second and have guys be wide open. I don't love that. I don't love that at all. It's a winnable game, so it's tough there for the Panthers. Just very much a work in progress. In the last 3 teams, the Falcons a mess at quarterback. Obviously, whether it's Heineke or Ritter, they just don't have enough at the position. They have a good enough team. But the more I was thinking about this one, the more it was kind of a bad loss because I know it was a tough game plan going in this, trying to deal with Kyler Murray, and it's a tough draw. You played the first team to play Kyler Murray. That's tough. But I thought things kind of went your way in this game. I thought things went your way. With the calls and just how the game went, back in it with the bad Murray interception. They got that PI call that eventually let them take the lead, and they just couldn't close it out. So it's just not enough from this team. Packers. Yeah, the Packers I thought played better in this game overall. Jordan Love played better until the turnovers came, bad moments. He can sling the ball deep, or these young receivers are decent. They're getting open deep. They're making plays. They got hands, They can make plays. They were in this game. I know they had that tough situation with the screen pass. That one is close. People have made it seem like it's a blatant bad call, but it is where Pickett, I think it was the 11-yard line or so. That's where he released the ball, and I thought it hit Warren's hands at the 11-yard line. It actually looked like a backward pass to me. If I really look at it by this much, people are acting like it's this much, but it's not where his feet are at. So I guess it was tougher to call, but it probably was the wrong call. So that didn't go their way, but the run defense is atrocious. But the Steelers were kind of keeping them in the game, not running anymore, trying to throw, and Pickett wasn't getting the job done. The Packers had their opportunities, and they played better in this game, not the run defense, but Love and company, they played better. Just couldn't execute. The turnovers still there. Commanders, I see some good things from this game. Howell played well. And I'm rooting for Howell because he was one of my guys of that draft class, and I liked him in college. And his stats look great. He's making some wild plays. He can air the ball out, keep you in the game, some clutch touchdowns at the end. But the turnovers just seem to find him. And he doesn't throw an interception this game, and he's a tank when running. I love he's like Baker, fighting for those extra yards, and he'll run you over too. And I respect that, but man, and he fumbles on that play when he's just fighting a little bit too much, and the turnovers seem to find him. And of course he can cut down on it, but I always think they're going to be a thing, and that could be a problem. That's where usually when I'm right on my guys, the guys where I'm high on the draft, I want to, brag about it a little bit, but I'm going to hold out on that one for a little bit still because the turnovers seem to find Sam Howell. But other than that, like he's in, sometimes he holds the ball a little too long in the pocket. The scrambling sometimes looks pretty, sometimes looks awful, but I mean, he can air it out. He can be clutch. He can make that wild play. So there is a lot of positives here for the future. But the thing with the Commanders, it is impossible, and I've been saying that all year, for the offense and defense to be on the same page, and it's usually game to game. It's like, all right, this game, offense, great. Defense, awful. That game, defense, great. Offense, awful. Turnovers, can't score enough. And in this game, it was like within the game. Like at first, it was defense is on, offense is not. And then after that, it's like the offense is scoring when they had any chance they got. The defense can't hold down the Seahawks then. The Seahawks are strong on offense, but then they're allowing these big plays, so... and at the end, giving that play to DK, they were too worried about touchdown when the field goal could have lost the game. Did they not realize that? The safeties were literally playing like 40 yards off the ball. It's just bad, so blame coaching and the players for that. But they had this game, and there are some bright moments, so that's why they're listed last on the teams that lost, because I thought they were the best loser, I guess, if you will, on the week. But there's still some things. There's still some things I question moving forward. But they're an exciting team at the same time, so it's kind of weird. But that will wrap it up for my Week 10 winners and losers, the recap. Here every Monday with this video. Let me know your guys' thoughts if you think I missed on touching on a point. Always talking with you guys on Twitter. Can't wait for our Week 11 content. Season's really getting going here. So join us, like, subscribe, turn on notifications on. It's going to do it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.